What is going on, YouTube? Northeast Ohio sports cards, but Marvel cards today. Coming at you with a Marvel video. Today, we're going to dip in and take a little peek and see how the old Marvel Universe 1990 market's holding up. It has been a while since we have taken a peek. So we're going to dive in. We are going to look at some pop report tracking, going to look at some sealed box sales, and some recent PSA 10 sales. That's what's on the docket today. Before we get rocking and rolling, like, comment, sub down below. If you're not already subscribed, click the button. Join us for this ride. And let's get into it. So it's been a hot minute since we checked in on this market. It's been at least a good 2 weeks, I think, since I made a Marvel video, card video. Made some comic book videos, but card video. And I was tracking the sales pretty close for a while, and I haven't checked in over a week or so. So I was curious. I said, let's dip back in here and see what's going on. And the market, in my opinion, is actually holding up fairly well, all things considered. Sealed box prices are down to about, it looks like anywhere from just under 1,000 to about 12 or 1,300. To me, that's pretty good. These things a few months ago were $200 or $300 a box. They spiked all the way up to over 2,000. That was obviously not sustainable. They've pulled back and they seem to have leveled out at around $1,000, which is still really good ROI if you ask me. And you're doing pretty well on them if you bought before the mad dash. And I think even if you bought when prices were high, if you ripped to grade, I think you have a pretty good chance still of doing okay. And I think at $1,000 a box, now this does get trickier with the PSA price increases, but when we pop over and look at the PSA 10 data, the sales data and the pop report stuff, there's some interesting numbers over there. So first, let's look at some PSA 10 sales. And just kind of scrolling through here. We have an Amazing Fantasy 15 classic cover, PSA 10, $900. A Moon Knight, not a major character. He does have a show coming, $550. Kingpin vs. Daredevil, $100. X-Men in the Savage Land, $100. Another MVC, most valuable cover, Punisher for $300. So quickly, what we see here are the team cards and the battle cards, unless it's Spider-Man, have come down, which is fine. They're not key characters. I didn't expect those to hold crazy value, but $100, $150 for PSA 10, that's still not bad. You have Long Shot here going for $400, by no means a major character. Cap for $900, pretty strong. What else do we got? We got a Stan Lee. This is classic. You SGC guys out there, here's what you get. SGC 10 sells for $700. PSA 10 sells for $1,900. And there's another $1,900 sale right here of Stan Lee and a PSA 10. So keep sending them the SGC, and you make about 60% less. Thanos, $1,500. Another MVC cover of the Avengers. This one's $750. What else do we have down here? Doc Ock for $400. So you can see, like, the PSA 10 stuff is doing pretty good. Here's another Stan Lee for $2,100. Green Goblin for $200. So as I kind of thought was going to happen, the PSA 10 market is going to be what holds all the value. Now, on the backside, I have been tracking the pop report since February 1st. So the last 2 months, I have been tracking what has changed on the PSA pop report, and I have those numbers right here. So in the last 60 days, only 57 PSA 10s have been added to the population report. And these are the cards that I'm imagining people are sending off at super express levels right when the wave first started. So they're probably paying a pretty penny to grade these. And what I thought was going to happen is happening. People are getting killed on these things to a degree. 67 PSA 9s, 40 PSA 8s, 9 PSA 7s, 28 PSA 6s. That is insane. 5 8s and 2 4s. And these do not include hollows. This is just base set cards. 28 PSA 6s is nuts. Nuts. I believe that's some people not knowing what they're doing when it comes to grading and sending things off without catching stuff. Listen, it happens to the best of us. I'd expect some of that stuff to sneak through every once in a while, but 28 6s and really 48s is a lot. 48s, PSA 8s, tell me that people are glancing these over real quick and they're missing things. They're missing small things and they're getting dinged for them. And if you submitted a PSA 8, it's basically raw. You know, you might get an extra $10 for it because it's in a pretty little case. But PSA 8 stuff is not going to sell extremely well. Even PSA 9 stuff, unless it's a super key character, is just doing okay. Your battle plan needs to be, I need to break even on 9s and make my money on 10s. If you could just cover your cost of grading on 9s, you know, it costs $100 to grade it, and in a PSA 9 it sells for 100 and you just call it a wash, that's fine. And then you get a couple 10s, and the 10s is where you make your profit. You could do pretty well with that, I think. The trick is pulling the 10s. As we've seen here on the channel, I have ripped the box of these fresh, sent them in for grading, got the Super Express order back, and I've already made $500 or $600 on that, just those 4 cards, covering the cost of the grading and the cost of the box, with 3 more orders at PSA at cheaper prices. So we'll see how I do. There's a long way to go. I could probably, it'd be pretty hard for me to actually straight lose money, but I could, you know, come a lot closer to just breaking even. And if I could pull some 10s, I'd come out way ahead. So we'll see how it all ends up playing out. The problem is, what really threw the wrench into all this is the PSA pricing changes. That made things a lot more difficult for us. Because now, in my opinion, if you're sending to PSA, unless it's a Stan Lee, you pretty much have to send it value tier, in my opinion. So send it out and get it back in 9-10 months and hope that the market's still there. I think the PSA 10 market will still be there. I don't know what the prices will look like for it. They could go way up. They could keep creeping down. I don't know. But the PSA 10 market seems to have leveled off as well, based off what I've seen, you know, tracking the prices and then looking back at them today. The key characters are anywhere from 800 to 1200, depending on the character, with Stan Lee leading the pack at 2K. PSA 9s are extremely cheap if it's a non-key. If it's a key character, you could probably do okay on it. And PSA 10 and just about any character and or any Spider-Man battle card or anything like that, or Wolverine, does pretty okay as well. But yeah, the PSA thing is what really threw the monkey wrench into this, and it makes it a lot more difficult to justify buying the box for $1,200 and submitting and hopefully getting them back. In the olden times, in the before times, when you could submit at around $40 to $50 a card, or even $75 a card on Express, I think you could do pretty good on a box. You know, you get one Stan Lee and you could cover the price of the box and grading. Now, getting one Stan Lee is no easy task. You know, I ripped a box, I got one, it came back at 9. And I creeped out about a $75 profit on it because I sent that Super Express. It cost me $200 to grade it. I sold it for like $325. So after eBay fees and all that stuff, and taxes on the front and back end and shipping and all the little things that get their little cut, that eats away at your profit a little bit. But on the 2 Black Suit Spider-Man that I sold for over $2,000 combined, about $2,400, I think, for the pair of them, $2,300. You know, I more than made up for it on those 2. So I broke even on my 9, and I crushed it on the 2 10s. We'll see how the other subs go. But if you wanted to buy a box right now and rip it, I don't know where you send it to except the slow boat to PSA. I mean, we saw earlier, looking at the prices, the Stan Lee SGC 10 sold for $700 when the PSA sold for $2,100. So unless you think, and it's going to cost the same to grade them, the difference is you will get your SGC slab back astronomically faster. And, you know, if you're willing to accept the lesser amount, then you could probably grind out a fairly decent profit quickly. But there's still risks to this stuff. Just ripping a box is dicey, as we saw here. You don't know what the hell you're going to get. You have to get lucky that your key characters come out looking in good shape. And there are a lot of problems with these cards, centering being number one, and there's really not much you can do about that. And that's not even factoring in, you know, corners, edges, smudge marks, indents, all that jazz that we ran into in the box that I opened, that some cards were just straight DOA out of the pack without even looking at centering. But I do still think there's money to be made here, especially for those of us that got submissions in the PSA prior to the price hikes are the ones that are really going to win. Post the price hikes, I think you could play the long game with these. Buy a box, rip it, send them off, forget about it. And in 9 months, you could do really well because your cost of entry is a lot lower because you paid less for grading at $25 a card or whatever it is for $20 a card for value service. But you're going to have to play the long game. The good news there is that Marvel's not going anywhere. Guess what, guys and girls? Spoiler alert, they're making more Marvel stuff. There's going to be some more shows. There's going to be some more movies. So it's not like this market's going to go away anytime fast. Do I think it continues to trend down a little bit? Maybe. These PSA numbers are encouraging because it shows for all the people, all the Facebook groups, and all the people in my comments, not everybody, but you guys know what I mean, saying, here comes the flood of, wait till the flood of PSA 10s comes back. There's these cards are laying around everywhere. I got 47,000 of them in my basement in a box, and I'm going to go get them, and I'm going to send them all off to PSA, and I'm going to post 42,000 PSA 10s, and it's over. It's over. They're worthless. Printed into the ground, which they were. You're absolutely right. They were printed into the ground. PSA 10s are not printed into the ground. PSA 10s are actually pretty tough to get in these cards. The ones that are minty fresh in your basement, in your binder, in your shoebox that you think are minty fresh, that's probably your big pile of 40 PSA 8s coming back. The ones that really took care of them, that's probably that pile of 67 PSA 9s, with a few of those being 10s. And then probably most of those PSA 10s, I am willing to bet, are people that pack pulled stuff and sent them in. Now, could this report evolve over time? Yes. Could we see a big influx of PSA 10s? Absolutely. My guess is probably not. Reason being, all this stuff, in my opinion, at least most of it, except for probably a few random orders that just happen to be there at the right time, is stuff that people sent in at higher value tiers for faster turnaround time. Your assumption would be those people were being pretty picky. The people sending at lower tiers, $25 a card, could be typically a little less picky. They're just sending whatever. So I expect the gem rate to continue to drop on this stuff. And prior to this, if I look, let me find the actual pop report. I have it right here. So as of right now, there are 2,000 PSA 10s, 759s. So more than double the PSA 10 to 9. But when we look at over the last 2 months, it is not trending in that direction. Now it's close. It's not like, you know, there's 150 PSA 9s and a few 10s, but look at, so PSA 8s, there's 40 and 28 in the last 2 months. Oops. PSA 8s, there was only 191 total. PSA 6 is 77. And sorry, let me rejigger my windows here. So there we go. Now I'm doing something. Look out now. Whoops. My Lord. This is quality entertainment right here, everybody. So PSA 6s, 77 on the report. 28 of those, gosh darn it, have been in the last 20 days. PSA 8s, 40 in the last 30 days, 60 days, 191 total. So that's a decent percentage of PSA 8s that just happened in the last few days, in the last 2 months. So you see where the trend's going here. You know, before PSA 10s used to dominate because the people sending stuff prior to this were being ridiculously picky about it, is my guess, because no one was submitting this stuff before. And like I said, my biggest fear when this took off is people wasting money on grading that did not have a great idea what they were doing and are going to get burned. Imagine sending a bunch of cards into PSA and you get back a bunch of 6s, 7s, and 8s. And you probably paid for a decent service level to do that. So I think the 10s will continue to hold pretty strong value, and I think you're going to do okay on 10s on anything remotely a key character. Plus, it's Marvel. Who the hell knows what's going to be a key character a year from now? Moon Knight could be the biggest thing in the world a year from now. Who knows? Or some crazy X-Men if they announce that, you know, on the main X-Men team is Longshot and Dazzler. Who the hell knows? But that's all I got for you guys today. Like I said, wanted to just kind of touch base on these. Haven't talked about them for a while. So the quick and dirty is box market seems to be pretty stable at around $1,000. I think it's an interesting play to buy a box for $1,000, rip it, send them in on PSA value and see what happens in a year. If you get halfway decent on the box at 20 some bucks a card, I think you could do okay on that. You only really need to hit a couple keys, assuming that the market holds. Even if it drops another 50% and cap is a $500 card in a PSA 10 in a year, an Iron Man or whatever, you know, to eat up grading costs and the price of the box, you still only need to hit 3 of them, maybe. And then if you get a couple 10s on just some random dudes, then that's all profit. So I still think you could do pretty okay ripping a box at $1,000. It's just going to be a longer time. You're going to have to tie up the $1,000 on the box, and you don't pay for the grading until the grades pop. So, but it also comes down to, once again, the very important key here is knowing what you're doing when it comes to grading, knowing how to evaluate cards, knowing what to look for, knowing what not to send, and doing your market research to know, okay, assume every single one of these comes back a PSA 9. Can I at least break even on the submission? And that's hard to do when you're predicting out a year. So all things to keep in mind, but I do think this market's going to continue to do pretty well for itself. I know that the prices aren't $2,000-$3,000 like they were when stuff first popped up, but $800 or $900 for your PSA 10 1990 Marvel Universe card is still pretty goddamn good. Just keep that in mind. The market was going to correct itself and level off at new floors, which it has done, which it always does. That's all I got for you guys today. Catch you on the next one. Peace.